Good morning, Minister Dalal. Good morning, Minister Theli.
Good morning and good morning, Chairperson. How are you?
Very good and thank you very much for agreeing to be part. Minister, how are you?
Well, good, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister Dilel. Good morning to Deputy Minister Police and the management of the South African Police.
Good morning, Minister. I really hope that I had engagement with the team of DPWI, and I do think that I must meet with Minister.
Recording in progress.
I must arrange to give Minister a monthly update about progress on some of the issues. But we will explain today. I've got the full team that's going to present this morning. Thank you, Chairperson.
Good morning, honorable members. We now have the meeting starting at exactly 9 o'clock. Good morning to the Minister of Police. Good morning to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. Good morning to our Deputy Minister, our National Commissioner, the team of Public Works, DG and the officials from Public Works, Minister of Police, Deputy Minister, and all our officials. Good morning, honorable members. I do wish to welcome all our ministers. We are fortunate to have 2 ministers and our deputy minister. The Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure has sent us an apology. Honorable members, this meeting has been requested by this portfolio committee for some time now. We are very humbled and pleased and very grateful, Honorable Minister Dalal, that you could agree to this meeting. Thank you very much to Honorable Minister Police that you could also be here. The meeting will be more fruitful if both of our ministers are here. The process of the meeting will do our minutes and our adoption of our report. We are just going to first do the adoption of the agenda so that we can start our meeting formally. Honorable members will now have our agenda so that we start our meeting appropriately, and then we will start our presentations. Could I have the agenda, please? Honorable members, as I said, we're not going to do the adoption of minutes and the criminal law amendment bill now. We'll do that. Please stay. I have not received any apologies for members who are leaving early. So we'll adopt the minutes and the reports later. We have guests, so we'll do the presentations. The presentation by the department. The first presentation will be by a briefing by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure on SAPS infrastructure development. The second briefing will be by the South African Police Service on SAPS infrastructure development, the lease management, the maintenance of office accommodation and police stations. Honorable ministers, we have had, as the committee has had quite a bit of concern about a number of police stations, a number of lease agreements, and you would understand that calling you here means that we would like to clarify matters. We are not here to lambast you. We are here to find a common solution. So for that opening words, honorable members, the agenda is before you for adoption. Do I have a proposal for adoption? Do I have a proposal for the adoption of the agenda? Yes, Honorable Meshu.
Good morning. I'm surprised that Barbara did not convey my apology because I have to attend PCO on international relations, but I send it to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Meshu. Your apology is noted. Any further apologies? Could we then start with the proposal for the adoption and a seconder, please?
We move for the adoption, Chair. As
Thank you very much, Honorable Work, for the proposal for adoption. A seconder.
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Siabi proposes adoption. Marekwa seconds it. We can now start with the briefing by the Public Works. Honorable Minister, you can do the introduction and then you will let us know who is going to do the presentation. Welcome to you and welcome to your team once again. You can introduce your team, Honorable Minister, and introduce your presentation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning once again, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members and Honorable Minister, and also our National Police Commissioner and all other colleagues. Chairperson, I think it's best that our Acting Director General, Dr. Alec Moemi, that he introduce the team, but we had made sure that we bring the accountable and responsible Deputy Director Generals in. So the Acting Director General, Dr. Moemi, will introduce all of them. So through you, Chairperson, if I can give over to Dr. Moemi. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Doctor, you may start the presentation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and good morning to all the members of the committee, and hearty good morning as well to both ministers, Dilil as well as Kele. Chair, just as a quick introduction of the team that is led by Minister Dilil this morning. We have a DDG responsible for construction program management, being Mr. Batu Mkotu, who Chair would also lead our presentation in this regard. I also have the Deputy Director General responsible for the real estate management services, and for purposes of this committee, the interest would be on the leases for the properties we have, and that is Ms. Nyeleti Makubele. Honorable Chair, we also have other colleagues in the department that are accompanying the Minister this morning, and those include the following: Ms. Lee Ann Johnson, who is the Parliamentary Liaison Officer for Minister Dilil, and we also have Mr. Basi Khaswane, who is the Chief Director responsible for the key client management and accounts management, and police being one of the big five we are administering in that space. And we also have in this regard Ms. Florence Rabada, who is the Chief Director responsible for the immovable asset register and for vesting of properties. We also have amongst us as part of the delegation this morning, other officials, including Ms. Sasa Suban, being the DDG, responsible for real estate investment solutions, Mr. Patrick Nasengani, who is the Chief Director responsible for facilities management. And lastly, I believe we also have other officials that have accompanied us, but who are here for purposes of provision of answers should the need arise. As a start, Chair, and to introduce the presentation,
my apologies, since I wish that we all know who's present. I'm asking that we first give our Minister of Police an opportunity to allow the National Commissioner to also introduce his team. So Dr. Moemi, my apologies, Minister Dilil. I think it would be appropriate that we all knew who is in the meeting from both departments. Honorable Minister of Police, I give you the opportunity now, you could then indicate who would introduce the team from SAPS so that we're all aware of who is present. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister of Police.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, again to the Minister and the top management of Public Works. As indicated here, Chair, the team is led by the National Commissioner of the South African Police, General Simula, so I'll immediately hand over to him to give us the rest of the team. Thanks, Chair.
The National Commissioner.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning, both Minister of Police, General Taylor, and Minister of Public Works, Minister Pigil, and good morning, DG Wemi. Good morning, all Deputy Ministers present, all the colleagues both from SAPS and Public Works. Honorable Chairperson, the delegation together with myself today is as follows. I have Lieutenant General Dr. Libia, National Head of DPCI. I also have Lieutenant General Jinga, the Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection. I have Lieutenant General Advocate Khan, the Head of Legal Services, Lieutenant General Dimpane, who is the CFO for the department, Major General Makwela, Forensic Investigations, DPCI, Major General Hankins for Supply Chain Management, Major General Sitole for Supply Chain Management, specifically Facility Management, Major General Peters, Head of Communication, Major General Leon Rabi, Strategic Management, and of course, our Secretariat, Kenneth Ledwawa. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much to the DG of Public Works and the National Commissioner and our two ministers. DG, my apologies for interrupting you. You may continue with your presentation or hand over to the relevant person who is going to do the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Just as an indicator, Chair, we have received this, and Minister referred that we look into the matters raised as concerns of the committee, and our presentation seeks to respond to those. At the outset, we wish to acknowledge that we are in the process, particularly in the construction project management, at which some of the projects of SAPS lie, and also in facilities management. We have been reviewing our own processes and have been having engagements with SAPS over the past few months with the view of trying to improve and identify where the bigger gaps are. And we have managed to identify where we have been undone previously by inaction and our inability to process this. We have begun stratifying our pipeline of these projects in terms of prioritization and what is to be done first. And we had been in constant consultation with our colleagues at SAPS to look at where the pressing matters are. Our intent has been on twofold, to look at immediate interventions that require us to attend to right away, as and when the challenges do arise. And secondly, to be much more responsive to the long-term issues that are in the pipeline and which we seek to address, and to also identify those that are quick wins to prioritize first. So the content of our presentation would seek to look at that, also to look at the mitigation measures in the interim period, whilst we're looking at longer term interventions of import, which is what we have announced to FOSAT, and which we have also sent out a letter to all the directors general and accounting officers of departments, is to alleviate the pressure around the day-to-day maintenance. And we have thus increased the the allocation of and the allowance of 100,000 rand per incident to 1 million rands to allow client departments, including SAPS, to be able to attend to their own day-to-day issues as may arise and as may be required, and not to be hamstrung by our processes, as we are busy now putting in place measures and mechanisms to be much more responsive and to put in place capacity and contracts to be able to respond much more adequately going forward. So to that extent, that will allow that if a door breaks or a window pane breaks or any immediate maintenance challenges that are required, or diesel finishes in the generator, the client department don't need to actually go through public works and go through tedious processes for them to be able to respond to the immediate challenges as such. So that's said and done. I wish, Chair, with your indulgence, to invite our colleague DDG Batumukhutu to then take us through the presentation we have on the SAPS infrastructure development and touch on the challenges and also what we are doing about those.
Thank you very much, DG. The DDG may start with the presentation.
Morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable members, Honorable ministers from both departments, the deputy ministers, if they are in the meeting, the national commissioner, the acting DG of the Department of Public Works, and colleagues. I am going to address the part A of this presentation, which is around the infrastructure development. This is received to be part of this engagement, where we'll be addressing matters around the projects, also matters around the leases, as well as maintenance aspect, giving an overview of what we are doing as a Department of Public Works in this particular program, a capital projects program, where the client being SAPS funds this particular program. Then we have the repair and the refurbishment program, where money is being utilized for maintenance, and that is being paid off by ourselves through a cost recovery model. And in the past financial year, which is the year 2021-22, we had around 232 projects in the capital program, and we managed to spend the allocation about 70% of the allocation in the country, and we have a 79 program. Due to the limitation of the presentation, we could not put all of the projects in the presentation. However, they are available when honorable members require them. In our implementation of these particular projects, we wish to highlight some of the challenges that we've had. As a department, we have also undertaken a process where we diagnosed our ability to implement the projects. We've done an infrastructure audit where we know exactly what is wrong within the value chain and the system. And just to highlight some of the challenges that we are picking up, that they are both internal and external driven challenges. The ones that we have full control over are with issues with our project managers, where they have the challenges of capacity to deliver the projects that have been bestowed upon them, due to the sheer number of the number of projects within that particular portfolio. And also when we look at the consultants that we are working with, we have a higher reliance on them. And these are some of the issues that we have identified that need to be mitigated. The contractors that we work with in recent times have had challenges with cash flows and poor performance, which affects the delivery of the infrastructure projects on time as we want them to be delivered on time. Some of the external factors which we're also working with a number of stakeholders to resolve include the community unrest and strikes that happen. Most of our police stations are in areas of high density. And whenever we do work of a capital nature or repair and refurbishment, it always attracts the local communities to have an interest in that particular project. And we've seen a number of stoppages in our projects due to this particular challenge. In our next slide, we highlight some of the areas which we are working to mitigate as treatment plans. Issues of capacitation of our project managers is very high in our program. The issues of upskilling of our project managers, being the current staff. We also have taken a position and a posture to be strict when it comes to matters of contract management and consequence management towards the consultants and contractors, where we enforce contracts that we have between ourselves as a department and the external service providers. The next slides are also addressing the same elements of the treatment plans that we have put in place around the optimization of the systems within the department, where we integrate better with finance and external stakeholders and SCM. We have had quite fruitful discussions with my counterparts at the SAPS, where we have now embarked on a program of having better oversights on our projects. We have visited a number of these projects that are in implementation and had fruitful engagements to resolve the disputes in those particular projects. And these are some of the action plans that we have now put in place, which are more integrated. It's not only looking within ourselves as the Department of Public Works, it's also looking at the client to see how best can we both deliver the infrastructure projects together. The next slides highlight, honorable members, the spread of our project pipeline in the past financial year, just to reflect on which particular regions in which provinces had how many projects. In total, we had 232 projects. Cape Town have had the most in terms of the number of capital projects, followed by Kimberley and here at head office in Pretoria. And the spending is spread across the different provinces. And these provinces have had different challenges, but we have collated them through the audits that we have done in the department to ascertain what are the problem areas. Honorable members, as we are seeing a spending of 70% right now, we do not foresee the same challenge going forward. The Honorable Minister of Public Works has issued a directive for us to optimize the allocation of projects. Projects that are not tender ready will not have allocations for contractors. Only projects that are ready to go out to the market will then have allocations where contractors can spend money. By that, we mean that we are only making sure that those that will spend money will only be allocated money in this current financial year. We have finished an allocation process with SAPS, and we have done exactly so. And we'll be monitoring that going forward through the entire year in terms of the spending. The next slides are reflecting on the budget allocations, which I was reflecting upon of the 2022-23 financial year on both the capital and the repair and refurbishment programs. With respect to the capital projects, we have 379 projects that are with the Department of Public Works. I am aware that SAPS also has their own projects that they are running that have been devolved to SAPS. This number only reflects the ones that are with the Department of Public Works with an allocation of 423.8 million rand. And we also reflect as well of the allocations that are for the repair and refurbishment programs, where we have 78 of these projects with an allocation of 601 million rand for this current financial year. And these projects that are reflected are the ones that we are saying the allocations have been optimized such that by the end of this current financial year, we will see a better spend, more than the 70% that was reflected in the past financial year. The next slides are reflecting on the project pipeline in terms of how the projects are sitting, that we have about 300 odd projects in the design and tender stages. And then we have about 24 of these projects that are in the construction stages, and about 26 of them in the completion stages. There is also a bulk of projects that is still sitting in the planning, where issues of site clearance still need to be resolved. But those particular projects are not yet tender ready. They are still far behind, but we are still monitoring them as far as concluding those milestones of site clearances. Honorable members, we were requested by the committee to also give a highlight on the Telkom Towers project. And I wish to maybe just touch on that matter as well. The Telkom Towers, the Department of Public Works has undertaken to address the phase 1 of the particular project, which is the Telkom Tower North and the annex building. And the complex itself has a number of buildings which the Honorable Minister had previously given a guidance in terms of how these projects should then be dealt with respect to perhaps implementation of a build, operate and transfer model, which will expedite the issue of service delivery with the other buildings. I'm going to perhaps indicate that for phase 1, we have successfully managed to complete the phase 1, whereby the Telkom Towers North is currently being occupied. We have also, in our next slides, highlight that the annex building, which also forms part of the phase 1, had water ingress challenges, which are now being put in for us to be able to fix. We do have a project execution plan for fixing the water ingress, which comes from a structural problem, which is being addressed by the Department of Public Works. We also have the IT building, whereby the Department of SAPS had highlighted to us the need for us to expedite the IT building, as it forms part of the bigger migration plan that the department has. And with respect to this particular project, we are anticipating to go out to the market in June of this year, which is next month. And those processes should be completed by August, September, and a contractor will then be on site thereafter. It will take 8 months for the scope of work to be completed, and we then anticipate to hand over that project back to SAPS after 8 months counting from September. As I had addressed the element of the annex building of the water ingress, here, honorable members, we had conducted a condition assessment, a thorough one of that particular building where there are damaged joints and there's cracks on the basement, and the parking area slab also has some structural cracks, and these cracks are the ones that allow water to then seep through them. It's an issue which is not severe structurally, in the sense that it is repairable. The joints over time need to be maintained and replaced. And this is part of the program which we are embarking upon. The instruction to commence with the procurement work will then be issued in July of 2022, which will enable the professional team to finalize the scope of work such that we are able to implement this particular scope in Q4 of this financial year. Acting DG, may I pause here and request my other colleagues to deal with the lease management aspects of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Acting DG.
Thank you, Chairperson. I wish to invite Ms. Nyeleti Makubele, our Deputy Director General responsible for the real estate management services, to present on this part.
All right, thank you, DG. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members, Honorable Ministers that are present here, and my colleagues. My name is Nyeleti Makubele. I'm responsible for the Real Estate Management Services branch, and I'll be presenting on the leasing portfolio that we have with the South African Police Services. In total, our total portfolio as the Department for Leasing is 2,591, which is nationwide. And for SAPS, we have 1,070 leases, which constitute 45% of our entire portfolio. And in this presentation, we'll just give a breakdown of our portfolio per province and the challenges that we're experiencing, and also focus on what interventions the department has embarked on or is embarking on in order to resolve some of the issues that we are facing. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have 11 regional offices as a department, and as we said, the entire portfolio is 1,070 leases. The valid leases, we have 812, and the leases that are currently expired and on month-to-month are 258. And then we have terminated 15 leases. The leases that have been terminated is because perhaps the client is moving to another facility, or in the case of Telkom Towers, we have leases that we have now terminated or are terminating as and when our client moves into the Telkom Towers. The department is embarking on a drive to renew all expired leases so that we do not have month-to-month leases, because they attract a very bad audit outcome, and that is the spread as we speak currently. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, the slide before. Thank you. The slide before just highlights the high sites. So these are the leases that we have for high sites, for communication towers, and also broken down per portfolio, per province. And we have got 268 in total leases for high sites. Those that are valid are 204, and we have 57 expired leases, and 3 have been terminated for the high sites. Next slide, please. Thank you. So on this slide, Chairperson and honorable members, what we're trying to do is to highlight the challenges that we are facing as a department, and perhaps the challenges that we're understanding the clients to be having as we are engaging with the clients on day-to-day basis. We do experience delays in issuing mandates for us to renew leases, And this is a general problem. It's not just a sub-specific problem. We do experience challenges when the leases are supposed not to expire at first before we renew the leases, but sometimes we find ourselves actually running into month-to-month leases while we're still engaging with clients to be able to renew their leases, or at least to understand if they still want to stay in those facilities, or would they like us to find an alternative accommodation for them. And then we also experience delays in confirmation of funding. After a lease has been procured, we have a business process where we engage the client to say, we have procured a lease for you or have renegotiated a lease for you, and this is the cost. Before we sign a lease agreement, we need that confirmation of funding. There are delays in that regard as well in certain instances. The other challenge that we're having as a department is that you get mandates to renew leases that are very short periods, which then increases our cost. It causes high cost in terms of the rate per square meter that we pay. And we also have diminished bargaining power of what we can demand the landlords to do in terms of upgrades or get a more intensive maintenance program, because the lease is so short, and obviously from an investment perspective, it does not make sense. And obviously the administrative burden that comes with renewing leases almost on a turnover of 3 years. So we would like, we will talk about it in later slides, we would like to negotiate for longer periods so that we can obviously achieve the opposite of these challenges. The challenge of us not executing instructions on time, this is a problem that we are experiencing as a department, not necessarily a problem that is caused by the client, but it's an internal problem that we have within the department that we are now managing and trying to make sure that when we receive a procurement instruction from a client, we try and execute it as fast as possible. And then on the second box, this is us trying to contextualize the issues that the client is experiencing in these list facilities that we have. Poor maintenance by landlords, and in many cases, I think in Durban, we have the biggest problem of a landlord that has got a monopoly, and they are not maintaining their buildings as we would like to see. And because there are not many facilities where we can go, and we have this back and forth, and obviously there is some poor contract management that can be attributable to public works as well. We do have old and dilapidated stock in certain towns, and in certain areas there's simply no accommodation at all, and we would go out on tender 3 to 4 times before we could actually find someone to offer us accommodation. And the delays in procurement processes I've already addressed in the previous box. Next slide, please. So what we're trying to achieve with our lease renewal program, we are trying to reduce the leasing budget and achieve savings. As we may have had in previous conversations, that our leasing budget has gone up beyond 4.5 billion, and we would like to bring that down. Our target is 100 million for this financial year. Previous financial year, we've achieved 273 million rand in savings. And we also want to reduce over-reliance in private leases, which is obviously one of the things that has been identified by the Auditor General. And it's a problem that we are addressing in the department. I think what may have created this is that when we achieved our democracy, the demand for service was coming at a much higher rate than our rate of construction. And therefore we found ourselves with more leases than we have on state-owned. But that is what we're trying to address as a department. Introduction of procurement reform. This one is a problem that we are experiencing as a department, where we go out on tender to acquire accommodation, and we struggle to find suitable accommodation. So what we're trying to do is to establish a lease portal that is going to give us an indication of what accommodation is available where, and this will cut down our procurement processes by more than half, so that we are able to provide accommodation at a much faster rate. We have a property empowerment policy that was approved in 2018 that we're trying to implement, and this is now linked to the lease terms that we should give to, or that we would like to give to, qualifying entities that have got the proper BBBEE credentials. Thank you. Next slide, please. So one of the programs that we're trying to implement in changing the dynamics of having more leased facilities than state-owned facilities. For smaller properties, we're looking at a program called Lease to Own. We have successfully implemented one of these in Johannesburg, where we have entered into a longer term lease for a police station that will then revert to the state at the end of the lease term. If we can have an engagement with SAPS in terms of what leases or what facilities we would like to engage on or to achieve this lease to own, it will go a great deal in reducing our reliance in leased facilities. There are leases, facilities that have been leased for far too long. And if we had engaged on this program previously, it would have now yielded a situation where we are owning some of those facilities. And this is a conversation that we would like to build on with the client so that we take it forward. Thank you. This, the next program that we are embarking on is the Precinct Planning and Development. You would have seen in Tshwane, we have a big precinct that we are developing for government offices, and this is the Salvakop precinct. We have a memo, a cabinet memo that was approved in 2001 that directs that headquarters of various departments must be in the CBD. The outright purchase of Telkom Towers was also trying to achieve the same. So in terms of state-owned facilities, we've got 14 national governments that occupy 750,000 square meters in and around Tshwane. Can move on. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the precinct planning and development strategy is also earmarked for facilities, or at least for areas where we are unable to get accommodation, where we can look at various service delivery nodes, and then we can build precincts on those various areas. Like I said, the one that we have started currently and is underway is the Salvakop one that is looking at the development of 360,000 square meters for 4 national government departments, and is currently executed jointly between ourselves as Public Works, National Treasury, and the City of Tshwane. Thank you. The next strategy that we are embarking on is called the Refurbish, Operate and Transfer strategy, where as a department, we're looking at buildings that we are not utilizing efficiently, or we need capital injection on those facilities to upgrade so that we can then accommodate our clients. In this particular scheme, we have identified a few buildings where we would like to do a proof of concept and see how that works. And the Telkom Towers is one of those where the next phase of the Telkom Towers, where we need to upgrade the facilities, will be done through the ROG program. And we also have the Public Works House. Those who are familiar with Pretoria, or where we are as head office as Public Works, we have a building next to us that is not fully utilized, and we would like to put that in the ROT process. We also have the Civitas building, where the Department of Health was and has vacated because it has got many occupational health and safety challenges, and we would like to put that program, implement that program as well. And in so doing, we would be accommodating more and more of our government departments in state-owned facilities, and therefore cancelling some of the leases that we have wherever feasible. Thank you. On the devolution of custodian functions and on functional accommodation for SAPS, the sole reason was to ensure that SAPS acquire police stations through the construction and purchasing of existing ones to augment the stock and inject capital investment on them. I have already spoken to some of the outright purchases that we have embarked on previously. And there is a process, and I think my colleague Batu has also mentioned, where SAPS is constructing some of the police stations themselves in order to alleviate some of the pressures that we are experiencing as the Department of Public Works. Next slide, please. We were also asked to check on our portfolio of leased facilities and rate them in terms of whether they're in a good condition, fair or poor condition. it is unfortunately those that are still in poor condition are very high. But then some of the issues are caused by where we have rented facilities from municipalities, for instance. They charge us a very nominal rate and they're not willing to maintain those facilities. So as a department, we're looking at a strategy where perhaps we could either negotiate purchase or property swaps with these municipalities so that we then have rights to maintain or upgrade those particular facilities. Because with police stations, for instance, the police stations are strategically placed in certain areas for ease of access. So you can't just move a police station up and down willy-nilly. So we might have to look at other strategies. How do we then engage those municipalities to actually acquire the said properties and actually bring them to a more habitable status? The issue about renegotiation of leases, I have already spoken about, where we would like to get longer term leases. In that way, we're able to increase our bargaining power where upgrading of those facilities and maintenance of those facilities are concerned. And obviously enforcing maintenance provisions of the lease contracts. We do have a standard operating procedure where we do not sign any lease contract anymore where there is no proper maintenance plan in place. And that maintenance plan is the one that we're saying we need to enforce, or at least strengthen how we enforce such maintenance provisions in our lease contracts. I think that will be the last for the leasing project. Thank you so much, Chairperson and honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. The chairperson is still away. She'll be coming back not long. I'll give it back to Acting DG. Are you fine?
Chair, we have part 3, which is about the maintenance, and I would like to invite Advocate Nishi Sharma to take this part and make a presentation in this regard.
Is it the last part from you?
Indeed, Chair.
All right. Thank you. Can we get the presenter?
Good morning, honorable members and chair and all protocol hereby is adhered to. In terms of facilities management, we've just got a quick snapshot of where we are in terms of how we deal with maintenance requirements. Specifically, it's generic to all clients. It's aligned to the NEAM framework, which is the National Immovable Asset Management Framework. So in essence, what facilities management does, we have a blend of preventative as well as corrective maintenance for all user departments. So it's just a snapshot that's taken from the NEAM framework to give you a sense of how we do the planned and preventative maintenance as well as the corrective. And then you have term contracts that have been implemented in most facilities to ensure that there is both a blend of preventative as well as corrective or reactive maintenance. We also carry out condition-based assessments of the facilities to actually identify what are the risk areas within a particular facility. And then based on that, we try and put in a requisite strategy to talk to that. So in terms of actions for the preventative maintenance, we've got servicing and maintenance actions. And then we've got inspections through condition assessments, and that's carried out through testing and monitoring. Now, when it comes to corrective maintenance, I think most client users and SAPS will know it as the day-to-day maintenance or the planned maintenance as well. So here, we have calls that are logged by the client department, and then inspections and assessment of it is carried out, and thereafter we get a service provider to go out and actually provide the service. Next slide, please. So currently, our maintenance strategy delivery mechanisms is where we're looking at a total facilities management contract, which is also referred to as the one-stop shop, where you, currently you'll have term contracts with multiple service providers, but the TFM will have one service provider that will be providing all the maintenance requirements for a particular facility. So it will encompass multiple disciplines to ensure that there's optimal functionality of the built environment. And then there's also the issue of integration of people, places, processes, as well as what's imperative is technology as well. So the total facilities management contract is actually split into two areas. You've got the hard and the soft services. So the hard services talks to the fabric of the building, where you've got your critical components as well. And then your soft services are the ones that just ensure that your facility is actually pleasant to work in. So it's like, ensuring your cleaning and those things are in place to make sure that the environment that the employees are in is conducive as well. Next slide, please. So currently the TFM model is as you see before you. We've got it will be done in-house. We've got a DPW procured panel. So we will generally engage with our counterparts as in the user department, and we will carry out a condition assessment, and then based on the condition assessment, we will then do a detailed scoping exercise with cost estimates, and then we will have the end user who will be, in this instance, SAPS, who will sign off on the scoping as well as the estimate, and then we will put in the TFM. Now, what is outsourced from this particular model is your labor, as well as the call center, which is your, your ICT technology. And then we will ensure that through the TFM, you will have your service providers that will be providing the commensurate services through the TFM. So it'll be one body that will make sure that your multiple disciplines, be it mechanical, electrical, or building, are all provided through the TFM contract. Next slide, please. So currently for the current financial year, our key focal facility is Telkom Towers North, which is part of what we call the phase 1B of TFM implementation. So the scoping exercises have been conducted, and the budget has been approved through the relevant committees. And then we've also written or applied to National Treasury for exemption from the current moratorium based on the ruling of the Constitutional Court. So we are currently providing interim maintenance to the facility through day-to-day call logging. We've also got our in-house workshops through the Pretoria Regional Office that provides some maintenance requirements. And then we've got 5 site-based technical personnel that are always at Telkom Towers. If anything is a challenge, or if there's any problems with the facility, they are there on hand to assist. And as the acting DG has also mentioned, that we will be increasing the delegation on day-to-day maintenance from 100,000 to 1 million. So it will give the an opportunity for greater scope when it comes to maintenance requirements on day-to-day specifically. So I've also mentioned previously that we've got term contracts in place. So the term contracts are considered mini TFM, but the challenge there is you've got multiple service providers that are actually providing the services. So there's a suite of both hard and soft services that are provided through the term contracts. So these are based on component criticality, as well as the facility holistically when we are assessing it. And it's important that we mention that this is aligned to the National Immovable Asset Maintenance Management framework, And we try and ensure that there are longer term contracts that range from 24 months to 36 months. It allows a better service scope when the term contracts are longer. So term contracts for hard services, it's important to note, like I mentioned, when it comes to mechanical, electrical, and building, it's or a combination of the trades, you can use different service providers. And what happens here is that you have both your preventative, as mentioned earlier as well, your interval-based and your condition-based approaches, as well as your corrective maintenance, which talks to your, breakdowns or failures that are not actually scheduled, or you're not aware that it's going to happen. So it's basically a way of reactive. So on the other hand, the term contracts for soft services, this talks to your cleaning, hygiene, pest control, landscaping, and security, is a single, or it can be a single category. So this generally is obviously something that's guided by the user. And then when we are targeting facilities, most of the assets do not make it to form part of the TFM list as they are offered per building. So it's important that we have that engagement when we are dealing with it. So sometimes you'll have a mixture of a TFM as well as some term contracts to assist and support the term contract, the TFM contract as well. Next slide, please. So here you have a breakdown of what we've got in place. So you have your cluster term contracts, which is where you have different services that are clustered together, depending on the facility density, which is, the size and scoping of it. So you'll have one contract for several buildings within a facility, because generally sometimes there's a misconception that a facility is one building, but you'll have a facility with multiple buildings as well as multiple users. So you might have one term contract that is servicing that facility, inclusive of all the buildings and the occupants, or you might have a cluster that can be per precinct, city and town, or district, or any other form of classification. Generally, this you will find in your bigger city areas, like for instance, if you look at Cape Town or Durban, and in some instances, other regions tend to cluster their term contracts. So they'll have one service provider that will go out and provide the same service to various facilities out of a specific area. So we've also got the DPW workshops and handymen. This is a delivery model that is based on our own in-source resources through facilities management. So we'll have a hybrid of workshop resources deployed as and when they are required to carry out the preventative and corrective maintenance. And also there's a deployment of site-based handyman to perform the first line maintenance. Like we mentioned, at Telkom Towers, we've got the 6 officials that are based there. And this is also considered a stopgap measure during transition between contracts. So when you are moving from a term contract to a TFM, for example, you have that interim solution there to ensure that there's, service delivery performed or maintenance requirements that are performed as well. So your corrective day-to-day maintenance is based on corrective maintenance. This is also the stopgap measure when it comes to the contract transition for a longer term contract, such as your total facilities management contract or your term contract, or work that might be carried out through workshops. And then other than that, all corrective maintenance generally falls within any of the above offerings. So even if you might have a TFM in place, or you might have term contracts in place, there's always that potential risk where you might need to have corrective maintenance carried out. Or sometimes it's also term reactive, where you need to go out and ensure that there's functionality within a specific facility. Next slide, please. So here we've got the requirements in terms of the minimum suite of contracts, term contracts that we have developed, and they are criticality based. So this is just a snapshot that gives you a sense of what we consider as high critical components. And then this is categorized per coloring. You've got your red, which is also aligned to your OHS to ensure that there's optimal functionality within a facility, and then you've got your critical components under yellow, and then your important components as well, that's categorized in terms of priority. So it gives you a sense of how the term contracts are created and developed, and how they are focused when it comes to criticality of a particular facility. So we can move to the next slide, please. So it's important to note that the term contracts are spread across all. We've got 11 regional offices, and they service various, SAPS facilities, and this is obviously an ongoing program. And all departmental users have, including SAPS, have now been given the 1 million delegation to attend to non-technical maintenance calls. And a list of term contracts and facilities will be provided to the portfolio once all the information has been received from the regions, because we're currently finalizing our annual report, so we can provide the list of the term contracts as well as the facilities to the committee once requested. Next slide, please. I think this is the end, but so in terms of capacity, it's important to note that the maintenance delivery mechanisms requires extensive technical skills, which is inclusive of your, term contract management. And I think the DDG contract project management also highlighted this. So before implementation of any contract, be it a term contract or a TFM, we need to carry out scoping of services, associated costs and needs that need to be carried out. And it is important to note that there is a gap in the current skill set. And it is for this reason that the department has acquired a multidisciplinary professional team to assist, while a more permanent solution of insourcing of resources within the branch is sought. So project implementation turnarounds, we cannot deny, is often long. An asset renewal program has been established to try and assist, especially around replacement of like-for-like critical components. So this will assist in facilitation of speedier replacement and repair of critical components, utilizing a ring-fence budget in order to reduce the backlog of planned maintenance. So it's important to note that those components that are considered critical for functionality of a police station can now be replaced utilizing this particular strategy or program. Next slide, please. So I think one of the challenges that we are facing holistically is that the budget for maintenance is not necessarily aligned to the size as well as the condition of the portfolio, which is a continuous risk factor, because maintenance has not been prioritized as it should be. Because if we are able to put in plans, put in place plans and commensurate budgets, then it will obviously reduce the risk that we are facing currently. There's a centralized custodial responsibility with a decentralized budget authority. And now it's obviously, it used to be set at a specific amount, and then now we've expanded that to allow our users to carry out more maintenance that are non-technical. I think all of us are aware that we've got a massive aging portfolio and a high maintenance backlog, and in fund with the portfolio's renewal program, and this negatively impacts on maintenance, because the delays there obviously impacts on how soon we can effect maintenance and ensure that there's optimal service delivery. The other major challenge is to also take cognizance of the fact that we cannot maintain obsolete assets. So it's important that when it comes to facilities management specifically, we need to ensure that when we are maintaining a particular asset or a component, it has to be functional. So if they are irreparable or require replacement or refurbishment, or there's unavailability of spares, this has a ripple effect on the day-to-day maintenance and budgetary challenges within the maintenance ambit. Next slide, please. So that's the end of my presentation. I'll hand back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Do we have the next?
Chairperson, thank you very much. This was the end of our presentation.
Thank you, DG. DG, you and your team will be staying with us with your Honorable Minister. So that was the indication I received. You are nodding your head. Thank you, Honorable DG. Honorable Minister of Police and Deputy Minister of Police, you will introduce your presentation. Thank you very much, Minister Delo, for that very succinct and very detailed presentation. That's the kind of detail we needed. Thank you very much for preparing so well, DG Mohemi. We really appreciate the information that you have brought us today. The committee has really been looking forward to this for a very long time, and I'm happy that we could get to this agreement today. Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister of Police.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I will hand over to the Deputy Minister for preliminaries, short preliminaries before the actual presentation by the team. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Deputy Minister.
No, thanks very much, Chair. And good morning to you. Good morning to members of the committee. Good morning, Minister Kele and Minister Dilil, National Commissioner and Acting DG of the department, together with your delegation. I think what we can say from our side is to appreciate this interaction that we are having through your initiative, Chair, that today we are here together with Public Works to account to the people of South Africa through the committee that is representing the National Assembly here. It's a good experience. It will help everybody to have an insight or a deeper understanding of the construction environment, which is mainly led by the infrastructure department led by Minister Dilil. You can see in terms of the presentations here that they are highly technical. It's a professional space and it needs to be meted with professionalism if we are to make progress as a department with regard to the services that we need to procure. And of course, you will agree with me that a closer collaboration between SAPS and Public Works is necessary. We should try, beside being together here, making a joint, appearing before you, Chair. It will be important that beyond this, there is closer collaboration between SAPS and Public Works, so that where there are weaknesses on either side, we should speedily respond to those so that we don't delay the services that we need to deal with, to provide to our people. And the issues that they mentioned here around the limitation with regard to maintenance, I think those are issues that we will have to ensure that we plan and we put resources aside for them, because without maintenance, infrastructure dilapidates and it becomes very expensive for you to come and resuscitate that. With those few words, I will allow, through you, Minister, we request the National Commissioner to lead in the presentation of what we have prepared as SAPS. National Commissioner, through you, Minister and Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister Police, Minister Police, National Commissioner General, you may introduce who is going to do the presentation. Thank you, National Commissioner. General Masimola, are you ready?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and Ministers, Deputy Ministers, and DG Public Works. Honorable Chair, our presentation will be led by Major General Sithole. Issues that I can just highlight very quick, which are some of the matters that are quite problematic in our space. There are areas like that, for example, your Parkwerk police station in Bloemfontein has been under construction for over 5 years. Police members are working in a construction site where there is dust, there is everything, and the renovation is just not finishing. Again, in the Free State, one matter to raise, Honorable Chairperson, the Protection and Security Services Division component, which is situated in the Free State, they are sitting without an office for over 2 years. The day come when audit has to be done, we definitely going to be in trouble because it can be that members work from their homes. And of course, Telkom Towers, I think, is quite well known that is a building that we're supposed to be occupying, but up to now we are occupying one of the towers, which the 9 are not yet occupied, and there doesn't seem to be indication when will this happen. And of course, also one needs to also mention the matter around the police stations that are owned by municipalities, which has been a challenge for long and is still a challenge. We can't maintain them, we can't do anything, but they are on day to day, they are going derelict. I'll allow General Sithole to take us through the presentation. Thanks, Honorable Chairperson.
Thanks, General Masimola. General Sithole.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to the Chairperson and all the members of the committee and the National Commissioner, the Minister of Police and the Deputy Minister, and all the generals on the platform. In our presentation, we have covered the following. We have the Infrastructure Development Program, which includes our capital works and plan maintenance. We've given the background and the budget allocation, the DBW projects that they are executing on our behalf and challenges, our 5-year infrastructure program, the status of the 21 construction of police stations projects that are in the SAPS annual performance plan. And then we've included our challenges and some way forward in terms of the solutions that we are proposing. Then section 2 is our lease management. We've included the status of our leases and the leases that are linked to Telkom Towers with the financial implication, and the leases that were terminated during the last financial year, and the lease agreements that were renewed outside the SAPS mandate, and the challenges that are relating to leases that are affecting service delivery. Now, in terms of section 1, we just gave the background of the devolution of the custodial functions to the SAPS by the Minister of Department of Public Works, and the memorandum of agreement which was signed between the two departments with National Treasury. And safe to indicate that at this moment we have 74 police stations in Eastern Cape that are devolved. Free State, we've got 20. In Gauteng, we've got 12. KwaZulu-Natal, we've got 39. In Limpopo is 20. And Mpumalanga, we've got 38. Northwest is 8. And Northern Cape is 22. Western Cape is 56. We are currently standing at 289 devolved police stations, which are the responsibility of SAPS in terms of maintenance and additional new police stations that must be built. One of the conditions that were set when the custodial functions were delegated was that the SAPS need to appoint technical staff in terms of engineers, architects, and quantity surveyors in order to ensure that the devolution agreement or the execution of the functions comply and are within the building regulations and instructions. Now, in terms of the budget that was allocated by the National Treasury, one change or transformation that has been brought in terms of the budget allocation was that this current financial year, the National Treasury indicated that while they allocating the budget, they will not be able to spend any cent unless we submit the project-based template, which indicate all our project list, taking into consideration the SAPS projects and DPW projects that must be firstly approved by the National Treasury. The submission was made during February and it was approved by National Treasury in March on the 23rd. And one of the issues that National Treasury gave as a directive was that we need, in terms of the previous underperformance or underspending, that we have a contingency reserve of 20%. And one other directive was that on a quarterly basis, we need to submit then the project progress report, which then they will use to evaluate in terms
General, it seems like you have lost sound. We can't hear you.
Thank you, DM. I thought it's from my side and I was trying to get my own network right. General?
I'm not sure if they...
General, we're losing you. Thank you, DM. I was thinking it's from my side, but it's clear it's from your side.
Yeah, if she can close your camera, General, I think your network is a bit weak.
Thank you, DM. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes, you're audible now.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you very much. I was at just summarizing the allocation for 2022-2023, which is 960 million, and then the allocation total for 23-24 is a billion and 3 million, and for 24-25 is a billion and 48 million. And continue with the budget for DPW, which has been unpacked for site clearance, planning and design and construction, totaling to the 397 million, and for SAPS, which also takes in the phases of construction, which is site clearance, planning and design, construction, and inclusive of the security upgrades, our repair and upgrade at police stations, and the establishment of the disabled facilities at police stations, and the installation of generators, the electrical upgrades, and the air conditioners, which totals the 960 million. Now, relating to the amount that has been allocated to DPW for the projects that have been allocated as indicated, as presented by the DDG, the 393, which was capital works, and the plain maintenance, which is 112. The only issue that I can indicate, Chairperson, is that the issue of the difference in terms of the project is that we are just still waiting for the final document, because we had a meeting last week, the final document of confirmation of the total number of projects that are funded and the total amount as that need to be referred to the National Treasury for approval, as they are projects that were not part of the approved document initially. And as soon as we receive that, that will be confirmed and referred to National Treasury for them to approve, so that then we can then confirm the funding for projects that have been. And then with regard to the challenges.
It seems as if we have lost you again. It really isn't from my side. I'm on a generator, honorable members. I have load shedding, but it's definitely not from my side. General, we've lost you again.
Chairperson, I'm not sure if now I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible. Do you have a stable network? Because we keep on losing you. And it's definitely on your side.
I think now it will be fine.
Thank you. You may continue.
Chairperson, I was indicated that in terms of our challenges with regard to the projects that are executed by National Department of Public Works on our behalf, one specific issue is that we have got a protracted time in delay of projects. We have
my apologies. You have an echo. There's another sound in the background. Could that person who's with you please mute the mic?
Thank you, Chairperson. One serious challenge that we have is the issue of the protracted time that in terms of the delay taking a long time with regard to the delivery of projects. We have projects that have been on site clearance for more than 15 years, which was registered in 2005, which is Apple. That has been in the media, that has been inquiries from the council, traditional council, all those, the communities, which has been a serious problem. And we have intervention projects where we have police stations that doesn't have water, where the water tanks were supposed to be installed, where there's no generators at all, where the security and where in 2019 we agreed that interventions need to be executed urgently. But the challenge that we have is that up to now, some of them are still on site clearance, some of them are still on planning and design, just to put a water tank, which we engaged DBW to fast track the process. We indicated that the best way will be for us to not only talk about the platforms for the meetings or the engagement, but to physically see it so that we can have integrated project delivery strategy that will then be approved, and then we know that we can then have a process that will be able to monitor the implementation or execution of projects. The protected time, especially in terms of the planned maintenance projects, I think that the serious problem is communication, where we don't have the clear indication of when the projects are starting and when will they be finishing, and influenced by the fact that DPW introduced a moratorium that we are not well aware, because we've written so many letters, but we did not get a response in terms of the feedback of whether the moratorium is in place or the moratorium was uplifted. Now, the other issue that we have is the performance in terms of the appointed service providers, especially the projects. I think the National Commissioner has already covered in terms of the Park Road, which is health hazard, and in terms of the condition under which the members are working. It is not the only one. There are many of them where we have contractors that have not performed, and even implementing agents that have not performed, where we have a serious problem of a condition when what the National Committee has mentioned, that they are working while there's a construction in progress. Then we indicated there that it will be appreciated if we can have an integrated project monitoring process, which we have actually started, though it is not yielding the results that we are expecting, but we have engaged with the DDG to indicate that we need to visit these projects and on site discuss and take decisions that will ensure that the projects are actually resuscitated and proceed. With regard to the quality of work, I'm sure the chairperson is well aware of the issues that were in the media for Pretoria Central and all the others that I problem in terms of the plan maintenance, where projects have been executed, but the condition hasn't changed at all. And there are critical issues that the members are actually really exposed to serious dangers that are not attended to. And those contractors are not actually, the penalties against them in terms of defaulting, in terms of the work obligation that they have. Now, in terms of the lack of integrated project service delivery strategy for special projects, we have projects that are very, very, in terms of the costs that are very high, and that we need to have a strategy in terms of alternative means, how we can actually accelerate the program in terms of those construction where they come up to the point of planning and design, and when we have to go on construction, they more than $1 billion we cannot afford, and we need just to come up with the alternative means in terms of what is it that we can do to ensure that those projects are actually executed and not delayed further. The lack of integration in terms of the progress monitoring platform, we just need, we just crying for the activation of the client forums that are prescribed in the devolution agreement or the SLA, that need actually to be sitting on a quarterly basis, but up to now, for the last 5 years or so, we do not have the client forums, and it is very, very critical in terms of enhancing the communication, because even our written communication is not responded to. I think that is the worst frustrating in terms of the openness, in terms of transparency for communication. Now, one other problem is that the regional offices that are not supportive in terms of them ensuring that the SAPS is assisted in terms of those police stations where there's an emergency, where police stations have been bent down, like the examples that we've given from Matala and Hlababombu, where we have been crying for or requesting assistance as the communities are suffering in this stations. The next slide, just in total, the total projects for 22-23 is 371, 23-24 is 173, and 24-25 is 175, with 25-26 being 114. There's a summary of the projects that we have for the 4 financial years that are still starting from the current one. And then in total is 899 up to 25-26. Then we have 11 projects for 22-23 for site clearance, 12 for 23-24, and 24-25 is 17, and 25-26 is 11. The ones that must be completed for planning and design, it's 7 for the current financial year, 14 for 23-24, 15 for 24-25, and 21 for 25-26. And for those that are in execution, is 3 for 22-23, 23-24 is 7, 24-25 is 12, and 25-26 is 9. And for the repair and upgrade, which we have got 4 that are prioritized for the current financial year, and for the victim-friendly facilities, these victim-friendly facilities are the ones that are at non-devolved police stations, which we have approached National Department of Public Works to grant us permission to proceed with the establishment or the placement of victim-friendly facilities at these police stations, which totals for the current financial year 20, and 60 for 23-24, and 59 for 24-25. And that will be the completion of all the police stations, as these are the only ones that are standing. Then with regard to the accessibility for persons living with disabilities, we've got only 2 financial years, which was the last financial year, 24 we finalized, and 20 are for the current financial year. Then for the devolved police stations, that will be the last batch of the projects for the accessibility. We've got 13 projects for electrical upgrades, And the security upgrades, the totals for the current financial year is 71 and 69 for 23-24, 45 for 24-25, and 25-26 it's 41. Then when we come to plan maintenance, I just want to indicate that for the plan maintenance, yes, it's true that the police stations are provided with a specific amount, which is 100,000 per case for the day-to-day maintenance issues. But for the plan maintenance, we have a target of 6 for 22-23 that must be finalized, and 23-24 we've got 9, 24-25 is 13, and 25-26 which is 8. And the ones that will be finalized in terms of execution is 3 for plan maintenance in 22-23, and 2 for 22-24, and 24-25 is 14, and 25-26 is 24. And the 10 plan maintenance for execution at police academies were the interventions that aimed at ensuring that the condition of the academies is improved for those that have been recruited at this moment. Just the 21 consulting of police station projects that are in the APP. The first 4, which is Osutu, Riversmark, Enedale, and Kanana, as we speak currently, the contractors are on site, construction is in progress, and Siame and Moyeni, the award for the contract has already been done. We're just waiting for the appointment of the health and safety agent for us to obtain the construction permit, so then we can hand over the sites. And the Huku, Dondota, Konogomboshe, and Susan are also in the process of the appointment of the contractor, which is in progress in terms of ensuring that we have the tender documents ready. Then Paudi and Tafelsak, these 2 projects are at the BAC for approval. The BAC has already finalized. They must just be processed through the BAC for approval of the contractor, which we anticipate that the contractor should be on site at least by the end of June or July. The next ones, these ones are the 13-21 are the ones that are we are busy with the appointment of the consultants in terms of the bids that were advertised that are under evaluation. The only one, which is number 15 and number 21, are the ones that were abandoned. The projects were abandoned by the contractors, which we have prioritized to finalize in this financial year. Both of them, that's Muyesha in Limpopo and Dwarsberg in Northwest, which were projects that were abandoned by the contractors. Now, in terms of the challenges that we have highlighted, we indicated that the continuous change of the strategy previously had an impact in terms of the negative delay that created the backlog. The issue of the prototype had an impact in terms of the site-specific projects that had to be introduced, and the issue of the site clearances that were not done, which delayed the whole deep rural program that was deep rural program that was top-dated deep rural program that was introduced, and which created some delays where in some of the stations or the sites, we find out that the municipalities have already taken the sites, like in Driefontein. Now, in terms of the problems that we have where we need to re-advertise or advertise the bids due to, for the appointment of the contractors, where we had to re-advertise due to corruption, maladministration, all the manipulation of processes, which the forensic investigators are busy with. The issue of the lack of capacity has also had affected the performance in terms of the critical technical staff that we needed. Safe to say that we have at least had an approval where engineers were appointed and reported for duty from the 1st of April. The other process was the issue that affected us in terms of the litigation process that are taking a long time, which we are trying to resolve with the help of legal services. The other issue that was mentioned by DBW, which is also affecting our projects, is the interference and the work stoppages by the small business forums and the construction mafias at our construction sites, which creates a very serious delay. Then the issue of the dependency in terms of the municipal rezonings and the Department of Labor in terms of the construction permits and all the other dependencies creates a problem. Then in terms of the lack of performance by contractors, leading to the termination of contracts, creating problems in terms of delay, and then the issue of the evaluation of bids, which is also affected by the issue of capacity and the withdrawal of the consultants in terms of those that have already been appointed and should actually be proceeding with the job, but would terminate because of the maybe delay in terms of the execution of the project. And the lack of responsive bidders creates a problem. And then in terms of the way forward, we indicated that we had additional capacity that was the additional capacity that was appointed, the additional vacant posts that need to be advertised. Then the issue of the regional and established of national capacity through the appointment of contract workers. That's one strategy that we're introducing now that will help us in terms of capacity. The issue of considering the use of implementing agents, which will also assist in terms of acceleration of our infrastructure development program. And then we also intending to use to explore the use of the PPP approach through the help of the Department of National Treasury. And then the issue of that we need to we intending to develop a high performance unit comprising of contract workers that will be contracted for 5 years, that will undertake those special projects and utilizing the design and build contract or alternative building method that will assist in terms of accelerating our program also. Then with regard to the issue of the terms of reference, that has been already resolved, and that's why we have a few projects that are already in progress. The last slide, in terms of the projects, we've already dealt with the issue of the manipulation, and there's internal controls that have been put in place. Then the issue of the site clearances, we are now in a process of reviewing our terms of reference, especially in terms of the time that it takes for the site clearances. We need to review that process and shorten the period, as sometimes it takes a year or two, which creates a problem, and we want to shorten it at least to 6 months as indicated previously. Then in order to alleviate the problem of interruptions by the communities, we've established that communication with the local communities to ensure that all the leadership are briefed in terms of all the projects that are coming into the area. Then we are in a process of developing also a compulsory mentorship program, which will then enhance the continuous professional development of our existing members. Then we also going to having a submission for large infrastructure proposals to the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Council by the end of May. Going quickly to the lease management, we just gave a background in terms of the mandate for the conclusion of lease agreements. And in terms of our records, we've got 1143 leases, of which most contracts are still outstanding from DPW. And this calls for the reconciliation process between ourselves and DPW, ensuring that all the database that we have tallies with the information from DPW. In terms of the breakdown, we have the fully fledged police stations, the leases that are occupied by DPCI, FSL, FCS, and all the others that are totaling to the 1143. Now, those that were terminated during the last financial year, it's 9, totaling to 5.4 million per year. And then those leases that are linked to Telkom Towers, we've got 29, which are supposed to be alleviated in terms of the leases when we move with the migration process to the outstanding Telkom, Telkom Towers, that still need to be made habitable for us to occupy. At this moment, we are spending close to 20 million per month for all those leases. We have got 42 leases that were renewed outside the SAPS mandate, as I think Mrs. Nyeleti indicated that the shorter periods are not working for them. But the reason why we request that they be not be renewed is because we have requested alternative accommodation because of the condition, or either except for the condition that we need to ensure that the leases are reduced. The next slide refers to the list buildings that are leased from municipalities, and we have got 29 of them that we have requested through engagement with DPW that starting from Gauteng, that these municipalities buildings we negotiate for the purchasing of those buildings so that then we are able to maintain them, because at this moment, on the basis of the fact that the rental that is paid is not market related, they are not prepared at all to maintain those buildings, and therefore creates a problem in terms of the condition of the buildings and the condition under which our members are working. Indicating the next slide is that we have a serious problem. The next slide. We have a serious problem when it comes to the leases, where the payment, non-payment of rentals by the Department of Public Works and the municipal services, where the money is claimed from SAPS, but it is not paid to the landlord, and this resulting in lockouts and buildings being locked by the landlords. The issue of the lack of maintenance is a serious problem. The issue of the extension on the renewals of leases without consultation, lease agreements, the copies that are outstanding, which then affect our database accuracy.
My apologies for interrupting you. Could you please not read everything and just take out the important parts so that we can
Chairperson.
questions?
Thank you, Chairperson. The challenges are as related to the different buildings, but what is critical is the condition and the issue of the non-payment, which leaves SAPS in the cold. What we indicated was that the impact is that we've got evictions and lockouts. What is critical about this is that when prohibition notices are issued, the only problem that we will only know in the morning that the building is closed and the members cannot access without any communication. We need an intervention strategy that will then resolve the problem in totality. So that is in short, Chairperson, what that is my last slide, that will then close the presentation on leases. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Masimola. Before I allow the ministers to do their remarks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and ministers here. That is the presentation by SAPS, Honorable Chairperson. And, thank you very much. I think I did make my remarks at the beginning. I'm quite happy. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, National Commissioner. Honorable Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, could you please make some remarks before we take the questions, if you would like to?
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable. To again thank you for putting this meeting together by bringing all of us in the same room so that we can find lasting solutions. I just want to say, Honorable Chair, that in the background information of the slides by SAPS, they make a reference that on the 1st of April 2006, the Department of Public Works devolved its maintenance, property rates, municipal service and leasing budget to all user departments. My understanding, Chairperson, is that that mandate is still with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. And I will respectfully request if I can see a copy of that. It's the first time that I'm hearing about it. Then also under the third bullet point, on the 1st of April 2009, SAPS, the National Treasury and DPWI agreed on the delegation of the custodial responsibilities for functional assets of the 200 police stations with binding conditions. I've also not seen such a devolvement of powers, because what I want to check, if I can have a copy of these documents, is when it comes to the custodial responsibilities of a department, it must be done in terms of Section 97 of the Constitution, by proclamation by the President, that the President may transfer to a member of the Cabinet the administration of any legislation entrusted to another member, and any power or function entrusted by legislation to any member. Find out, make sure that the custodial responsibilities of DPWI was transferred in terms of Section 97 of the Constitution. So I am a bit lost with the legal framework under which we operate. And if I can be furnished with those documents, it will certainly help. I've also not seen a service level agreement between the Department of Public Works and the police. If that can also be provided to me. Honorable Chairperson, I don't know how to describe it, but except to say this is a mess. What I will commit to do is that I can get through our external auditors of the department to appoint an independent service provider to assess all of these documentations in front of the committee today and all of the projects. But we have to sort out the legislative framework first. And then with the indulgence of the committee, request that we come back to the committee and present that report. I will make sure that it doesn't take longer than a month to 6 weeks to do the assessment. And then once we have looked at what is the legal commitments of Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to SAPS, I will acknowledge that Minister of Police has on several occasions reported some of these things to me. And I have made some interventions in the past, especially with Telkom Towers, that was started more than 8-9 years ago. And finally, after billions of rands and an implementing agency of DBSA, we were finally able to move the police just into one section of Telkom Towers. I'm aware because the Minister of Police has reported to us the expense and the cost to the police. And we must make sure that most difficult circumstances under which our police is working and servicing our country and protecting our people, that the conditions under which they operate must be conducive for them to carry out their work. So for me, this is very serious what I've heard here today, Chairperson. And I really want to make sure that we come to solutions as soon as possible. There are many other problems within the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in our construction project management. We have been working on trying to resolve that. but the portfolio of our construction project management department is bigger than even a private sector portfolio. And the tendency just to take on more work and more work, I have to now start engaging directly with the executive authorities of the USAID department to say what is doable and what is not doable. Yes, I have in the past year, 18 months, we have agreed to delegate some projects to be carried out by various departments. The Department of Justice have selected projects that they will do themselves. Department of Public Works assist with the technical help like engineers, architects, all this professional built environment services. Also with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, we've handed back 2 projects for them to do themselves. And then with the Department of Home Affairs. So there is a room without going to the Section 97 of the Constitution to agree between the executive authorities which of those projects and programs will be done by the relevant departments. So I'm really shocked by what I'm hearing and seeing today and the extent of the problem. And as I was saying, if I can get all of those documents, Chairperson, I will commit to the committee, to the honorable members, that I will work with the executive authority of the police. That will be my first engagement, so that we get to the bottom of all of these concerns raised by SAPS, because we really want to see a General Masamula and his team concentrating on what they are supposed to be doing, which is providing a service of police to our country, rather than having to be seized with all of these problems. So that will be my first comment and request, Chairperson, and I commit to come back to the committee once I have received all of that documents. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I'm sure you can now realize the extent of the frustration we have had. And I think you can appreciate why, as a committee, we were so concerned. And the reason then why we had to call you was not in any way a form of malicious intent, but rather an attempt to get to the bottom of this, since we are receiving regular complaints and the committee is unable to respond to the complaints we receive from the public. Honorable Minister of Police, could I first give the deputy, or are you going to respond immediately? Honorable Minister of Police.
I'll respond, Chair. It's not a very long response. Chairperson, every meeting I have with the police management and the DM, it ends by asking the question, can we be given an opportunity of doing these things for ourselves? All the meetings without fail. That tells you the problem that we're facing. I want to be practical in just a few things. Yesterday, I had a meeting, a big meeting with a team dealing with some issues of Western Cape. I had that meeting in my house. Is an official residence. We're supposed to have that meeting in the office. I have asked National Commission, I will remember, the Chief of Staff will remember, when do we have office as a ministry? Those offices have taken more than billions, but we can't go there. I was taken there to go and check. I was told that in 2 weeks, that 2 weeks has been 2 months, it's going to be 2 years and all that. As we meet yesterday, I looked at the water, the drink that we were serving that meeting of about 10 people that were in the house, and that is a personal budget because we're not meeting in the office. And those meetings, some of them, they need to be secured, and you find the place better there in the official residence, which itself is not very healthy. Chairperson, this office thing, there is an old office, Vachreis, which I'm told has no electricity, which has been shut down unnoticed and all that, which has been condemned and all. Police have no place to work from the very highest office of the police person. That's one. Two, Chairperson, there is a laboratory in Mazimtoti. You know our backlog, you know our problem on the laboratory issues. That laboratory has been flooded 4 times when it is raining, including the last rain, though it was minimal, but it was also flooded. You flood all chemicals, you flood all equipment and all. It's not just flooding the laboratory, you flood the whole system. 10 years ago, Public Works was supposed to build the laboratory in Pine Town. That has not. It has changed to find us the alternative in Durban Central. That is not moving forward at all. And who's getting lambasted by not having laboratories working are the police. Is a frustration that you live with, knowing very well that you are carrying sins that are not yours. The slow pace of movement, yes, there is in Eastern Cape, but it could have been done better. I'm trying to put practical things here. These 42 leases that have been signed without the mandate of the police, I wonder what it means. Because some of those are completely finished buildings. There are 42 of them. Police, you are told the next day that your lease has been extended, but they say, why are we here? For instance, if I can give you a practical example, Chairperson, Vachreis in 2010 was condemned. And then we were told that the lease was not going to be extended. And the owners refused to refurbish it because it's true, they could not have refurbished without the lease. But one morning when I was in the gym, I was told by the owners to say they are coming to fix my gym, to fix my office, to fix everybody. As I was asked in the management, I was told that they forgot to tell me that the building has been extended for the next 10 years. I condemned the building in 2010, Chairperson. This is a problem we're facing. This thing of landlords being paid by the department, but money doesn't reach them, and our office closed down and shut down. Chairperson, is one thing that I agree with the minister. We should be really dealing with something that is a core function of this department. But you go to this police station and you sympathize with this police and you feel for them that they are stationed in the big townships like Umlazi, Shepherd. That station is rotten. That is Umlazi. I'm told it's either is the biggest or second biggest township in the Republic of South Africa. And that station is number 1 all the time when it comes to crime. But you go and see how rotten the station is where people are working. We have been making this call. Can't we be capacitated? If can't be capacitated, can somebody take us serious as this organization that we're supposed to deliver a serious delivery there? If you go to, I think some slide, I think second overview of challenges, where there are blocks, where they're explaining. I agree, Chairperson, with this problem of this 30%, but there is area where they say is community unrest. You go to PE, where we're supposed to have a police station. Chairperson, everything, Gqeberha is a big city. Everything is imported there. The workforce is important. They buy everything from outside. And the communities have the right to rise and say, not in our name. When there is nobody single working here, when nobody buys the material from Gqeberha, everything is ordered from Johannesburg. Engineers, not a single one from Gqeberha. So communities will rise. And then it will look as if communities are locking down, are fighting the building. Whereas, why would you go to Gqeberha and have nobody from Gqeberha working in that particular project? Those are the things that are self-generated. Those are the problems that are self-generated. Whoever is supposed to do the project. Chairperson, I don't know whether we need a real serious imbizo or what, but let me tell you, as a South African police service, is one huge frustration that we get. You go to the planning of the police station. I see Nzuze is supposed to be 23, 24. The Honorable Member, Terry Blash, was there in 2011 because that station, which is a prefab, was finished 2011, but it's still not built, it's pushed and all that kind of thing. You go to a police station like Mtsintsini, which is completely out of communities, and it's almost 6 years where that is supposed to put where communities is, but you look at it, it's 24, 25. So these are the things, Chairperson, that you really sit there and frustrated where you don't have the place to work. But if you go to the Telkom Towers, we don't talk about millions, Chairperson. We talk about billions that have been spent. They're not millions, billions, but we still don't have the place to work. I want to repeat, all the meeting of infrastructure of the police, they end up by asking, what next do we do? The last one we had, we were asking, can we get alternative capacity? Can we be put in the presidential infrastructure that the minister knows of, Dr. Ramhuba? Can somebody do anything for us, Chairperson? I'm telling you, we are frustrated, not small, but big. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister of Police, I think this committee has shared your frustration, and we've realized that we cannot have a silo approach to this, and that we cannot solve this on our own as police. Honorable Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, we've been going around in circles, and this has taken our committee more than 2 years, not to get you here. Minister, thank you for your cooperation, for talking to me, and your personal commitment to this. I really, and the committee really appreciates this. But Minister, we are at our wits' end. We are receiving complaints from the public on a daily basis. We have the Central Firearm Registry, which is now packed up in boxes because they do not have accommodation. Nothing can move. We do not know in our country, we do not know who owns which firearm. It is more than a mess. It's a catastrophe, it's a disaster. And we owe it to South Africans to sort this out as soon as possible. We cannot fight crime if we have no basis from which to fight crime. We do not have accommodation. We've received several complaints. I do not even want to burden you with the number of emails I receive about complaints on this matter, where staff in the Free State are working from home. So it's not even as if they are doing online work. They need to be physically in an office, and they do not have an office. They do not have adequate accommodation. Honorable members, let us commit ourselves today not to work in silos, but to have a joint approach to solving the problems at hand. Now we can all understand how enormous these problems are. Honorable ministers, it is now 11. Do you still have, I hope that you still have time for our questions, and that you will also be allowed at the end of the meeting to do some responses and comments. So I please appeal to the ministers to bear with us and to stay with us. Honorable members, could you please now only focus on 2 questions I'm not going to allow more than 2 questions, or else we'll be asking a host of questions and we will not allow any responses. Honorable Whitfield, Honorable de Blanche, and then Honorable Groenewald in that order. Honorable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. This has certainly been an informative meeting, and thank you to both ministers for their presentations. Chair, I don't know that 2 questions will suffice, but I will adhere to your rule and in the hopes that we can have a follow-up meeting of this nature as soon as possible. This is one of the most critical factors affecting the South African Police Service, and we've seen for ourselves the state of the buildings under management of the Department of Public Works, which is completely unacceptable. Chair, my first question relates to creditors. I would like to know from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, how many creditors related to the South African Police Service are on your books, and what is the total outstanding payments owed for 30, 60, and 90 days respectively? And this question relates primarily to rentals and rates and tariffs. And the reason I ask this question, Chair, is because the forensic laboratory in Nelson Mandela Bay, and I'm sure the minister is aware of this, certainly the Minister of Police would be aware of this, is the Eben Dongas building in Nelson Mandela Bay. The municipality threatened to disconnect that building that houses the forensic laboratory because it owed the municipality 21 million rand or more in electricity tariffs. And I suspect that this is a problem across the country. We know it was a problem at the Criminal Records Center in Pretoria, which led to the doors being locked when the landlord disputed the rental payment from the department. And my concern in this question, Chair, is the complete failure to manage creditors and cash flow, because the assumption is made, and certainly from the information I have, is that the South African Police Service pays its monies over to the department, and the Department of Public Works fails to pay that money on to either the landlord or the relevant authority, such as the municipality. So insofar as SAPS is concerned, it appears that the Department of Public Works is operating a positive cash flow balance. And so I think it's important we understand who they owe, how much they owe, for how long they owe, and what the risks are of premises like a forensic laboratory being shut down, just like the Criminal Records Center was. Chair, my second question relates to 2 facilities, and that is the Excelsior building on Ridge Road in eThekwini, which has received significant negative coverage in the media. This is a building that is housing South African Police Service members, but predominantly now has been overrun by vagrants. The community is outraged. Nothing is being done by the Department of Public Works that we're aware of. And I'd like some feedback on what steps are being taken in respect of the Excelsior building in eThekwini, as well as the Walmer Township Satellite Police Station in Nelson Mandela Bay, which was a municipal building, which ultimately became uninhabitable for the South African Police Service, and they had to leave. So the crisis is very real, Chair. Those are my 2 questions. The one relates to cash flow and creditor management and payment of tariffs, etc. And the other one relates very specifically to 2 facilities, the Excelsior building on Ridge Road in eThekwini and the Walmer Township Satellite Police Station. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Whitfield. Honorable members, I have received a request from the Honorable Minister de Lille to step out to present to Cabinet. Deputy Minister, unfortunately, is not available today. So the acting DG, if you could also just note the questions that have been asked, the Minister will return after her presentation to Cabinet. Honorable de Blanche, thank you, Minister. You are excused. Thank you for being here, Minister.
I will be coming back, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Honorable Minister. Honorable de Blanche.
Chairperson, thank you. I want to start by thanking the 2 ministers for being here this morning, and obviously their delegation, accompanying them. And as you explained, this whole meeting is very, very much overdue. We saw from the reaction from both ministers the necessity, the seriousness of the situation, but then also, the necessity for such a meeting. And I'm very happy that we as the committee was able to introduce this to departments to one another. It was the General Sitoli that said that apparently for the last 5 years, they couldn't manage to have a meeting with Public Works. Now that is really very, very serious, Chairperson. My first question is, obviously I've got questions, a few hundred of them, but my first question is the Veritas building still occupied by the police? And are the police aware, or Public Works aware, that that is a criminal offense to accommodate people in a condemned building? That is my first question. Secondly, Chairperson, I want to know why it takes Public Works 14 years plus, for the construction of a police station, and yet it's not finalized yet. Chairperson, we cannot go on like this. And obviously, I'm looking forward to the day. The last thing that I want to ask Chairperson is, have they done a condition assessment of all the police stations? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable de Blanche. Honorable Groenewald, Denshembeni, Marekwa, Siabi, and Molekwa. Honorable Groenewald.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Chair, I want to start to say that it is a pity that the Honorable Minister for Public Works have to leave. And I understand it's a cabinet meeting, but with great respect, with an important issue like this, we should maybe look at a situation where we can have meetings on a Tuesday, where there are no cabinet meetings and where the ministers are available. For me, it was, or it is actually essential that the Minister for Public Works also hear what the members has to say. I mean, and I also want to start by saying that this morning, I agree with both ministers. The frustration expressed by the Honourable Minister for Police, we know we're coming for years with that frustration. And I say years. The Honourable Minister referred back to 2011, 2010. It's true. It's 2022. I mean, if we look at the projects, we see that 60% of projects, when it comes to police stations, are more than 5 years. 60% of that. Now, Chairperson, so I agree with the Honourable Minister for Police, and something must speedily be done to solve that problem. But I also agree with the Honourable Minister for Public Works. At least she was honest. She said, it is a mess. It is a mess, yes. Chairperson, this presentation this morning actually is proof of the inability, the incompetence of the Department of Public Works, the total collapse of the most important department to ensure that there's proper housing and buildings for members of the civil service to do their job. And Chairperson, you cannot expect someone to do a job if you don't give the tools to do that. And accommodation, a police station, is part of the tools of the trade to ensure that police function properly to fight crime. Now, my question is actually, if we look at this presentation, and that's why I say I agree, it's a mess. It's more than a mess. On slide number 5, the overview of challenges. Generally underperforming contractors and service providers. Disputes. Contractors experiencing cash flow problems. Delays in concluding designs. Requesting more budget.
The root causes, it says, is the reluctance by project managers to apply terms of contract in dealing with poor performance. Project managers not implementing proper time management against consultants. Internal professionals taking time to review designs, and over-ambitious project managers when requesting allocations. And further, it also says the demands on 30% subcontracting. I suppose that is the construction mafia, and labor pay disputes and indecisive clients. Now, Chairperson, if you look at that, it is actually saying that all projects, you don't have competent people, you don't have competent project managers. But what I can't understand, now we say that we have to look at consequential management. Chairperson, I want to know from the Department for Public Works, how is it possible that you can go into agreements, but you don't have consequence management? For instance, if there is a time delay, that certain fines applies to that specific contractor and whoever is doing the job. I don't understand it. And if it is there, then why do they do not ensure that they comply to that? If you further look, Chairperson, it says, for instance, that because of the disputes during execution stages of the contract. Why do we have those disputes? What are those disputes? What I want to say, in essence, the core of the problem is that there is not proper project management. That is the presentation from the department itself. So if this is only when we look at the police part of their responsibilities, I can just imagine how it looks overall. So my question, Chairperson, to the Honourable Minister is, how are you going to address this? Because this is the core of the problem. She refers at one stage to the interference by the so-called business forums. Who are these business forums? Can we get these details? I want to ask, Chairperson, the slide 5, that we get the detail on each and every one of those overview of the challenges, within the control of the department and outside of the control of the branch. That we, for instance, referring to interference by the so-called business forums. Who are these business forums? For instance, the construction mafia. In how many of these projects are they coming forward and say they want 30%? That we get the detail, because I want to emphasize again, that's the core of the problem. That is how and why we are where we are. Therefore, Chairperson, one short question, and I will stay with that, is what is the Minister going to do to address these core issues? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Groenewald. Honourable members, I think the first achievement that we've had is to have both our ministers here, and it wasn't an easy exercise to get the two ministers and the departments in one meeting, and that is why I spoke about the silo approach. I'll definitely arrange a follow-up meeting for a Friday or for another day, which is not a cabinet day. But indeed, it is very difficult to get slots for these meetings, which are outside of the slot of our committee. And the slot of our committee is on a Wednesday, although, again, the staff, Papawa, Nicolette, Nobisutu, they've worked very hard to get us additional slots, but clearly we need an additional slot to have a follow-up for this meeting. Honourable Shembeni and then Marekwa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And good morning to the Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, and all protocol observed. Chairperson, I would like to ask the question on public works that is to, does the department know exactly the number of properties or buildings that they own nationwide? If not, why? If yes, why do we have buildings that are hijacked by foreign nationals? And when making investigation, we find that they belong to the Department of Public Works. And if occupied by South Africans, they are very quick to be evacuated from those buildings. So I want to know exactly how many buildings do they have? Do they have buildings that are unattended to, and what is happening there? Secondly, to the SAPS, what is the average buffer radius for the population to travel to access the policing services? Because in terms of urban or urban rural, or it's a mix of rural stations, because the international norm is 10-kilometer radius. Now, is access to policing service more difficult in rural areas? If so, what mitigating actions are taken to increase the safety and security of the rural communities? I think that's the only two questions. Since Chair said we must ask two questions, but to add now on the conditions of the police stations, Honorable Chairperson, yes, it's very frustrating. I've heard our minister today have spoken mouthful about the frustrations the SAPS has. Yes, I'm in support of our Honorable Minister. And I remember calling the minister about bridge camp in the Eastern Cape. And I was told, yes, there is water, there is blah, blah. But today here, the so-called now public works acknowledged that they did not do anything in such police stations. This police station, the bridge camp, they don't have electricity, they don't have water and all these things, but nothing is happening there. And they are paying, I understand, these lease fees or rentals, a lot of money that they are paying there. Why not a police station is being built in the nearest communities? Because I understand it's also far from the communities, this bridge camp police station. So a police station has got to be built into the nearest communities with everything, water, electricity, and so on. Our police officers here, their lives are at stake. They must go and help themselves in the bushes and everywhere. I think that's uncalled for. And then secondly, my submission to the Honorable Minister, why don't we have our own artisans as the SAPS, like the SANDF? Because some of the other things are referred that we must copy from the SANDF. Why are we not having our own artisans, whereby they will service our own buildings? We've got to build our own police stations at our own pace, whereby we will have our own budget to monitor. I think that must be looked into, that South African police must start having their own artisans. We've got a lot of young people that are qualified outside, architects and the like. I think that needs to be taken off. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, I'll now hand over to Honorable Marekwa, then Siabi, and then Molekwa. Honorable Marekwa.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to you, to the ministers on the platform and the deputy ministers on the platform. officials and officers from the departments who are present here on the platform. Chairperson, having listened to, in particular, the ministers who made their inputs earlier on, before I go to my comments or the questions, I would like to just state that, one, I appreciate and welcome the presentations as we have seen them this morning and as we have received them as well. But I need to just mention that, Chairperson, it is important for departments to consider and pay more attention on the working conditions. I think the commissioner, the National Commissioner of the Police, including the minister, have highlighted some areas of concern regarding conditions where members find themselves or employees find themselves working under. Because working conditions in any environment are a very important aspect, and their impact on the employees is very key. We might undermine it, but working conditions have an impact on the workers or employees, and their influence on the moral and execution of daily tasks of these employees, with very high levels of morale and positivity, including health and safety. I think the commissioner mentioned one area where members in that certain area working in an area where there's construction. So already there is issue of health hazards, and it is not healthy for workers in that environment, including communities that utilizes those services on a daily, facilities on a daily basis. So I think those things need to also, as we speak, construction of buildings, new refurbishing and everything, but the conditions where members find themselves working are very important. It is also important to pay much needed attention to continuous and timely maintenance of stations and other working workspaces, because with department or those who are responsible of doing maintenance work, if they are not going to do that timely, we wait up until the damage or the cost is too high and we want to have issues and we will not be able to do the proper maintenance. We can build, it doesn't matter what type of stations we call first class or whatever stations, but if you are not going to maintain those, it's just as good as putting money in something that is like kind of wasting, because maintenance is key. A property can be sustained if it is properly maintained. So I think we need to pay, there's need of paying more attention on the issue of maintenance in the country and in the stations, and to make sure that members work there are very positive, because you cannot expect a person to be on duty in a space that is not conducive. And we expect them, when we enter there, they smile, they are happy and positive. That thing plays a role in their motivation also. So I think also the other part, as we speak, construction and other things, cleanliness is a very key issue, because some stations we can see they are dilapidated, but we need to encourage those who are tasked with cleaning to also pay attention in cleaning for their own good, for their own health, and including the health of the community that utilizes the services. So I think as we go about, one thing that we pick up and we need to also encourage from time to time is the cleanliness of our stations and workspaces where we go around. Thank you, Chairperson. And then going to my question, I would ask only two, and one of them is that, what is the, if you can get the total cost or the value of the leases operated on behalf of SAPS. I think we've seen some, but specifically one is more interested in those that are operated by SAPS, that are on the side of SAPS. The second one will be, what are the reasons for the termination of the 15 leases? And if we can also be informed or told which are those stations or areas or offices or whatever buildings, if we can be told which are those that are affected in terms of the termination of the 15 leases. I think also one last question, Chair, is that regarding the 258 expired leases as per the presentation, as we have seen from the Department of Public Works, are these buildings still utilized by members of the SAPS in certain areas. If you can be clarified on that one, I think I will be okay, Chairperson. Those will be the questions from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Marekwa. Honorable Siabi.
Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings to the two ministers and the Deputy Minister present, and greetings to honorable members present. Chairperson, I'm going to request that I don't switch on my video. I have a challenge with short load shedding. Let me welcome the two presentations, Chair, and continue to say the reason why we requested this kind of a meeting is because as a committee, we were also frustrated. But the presentations today added more to our frustrations, and the two ministers are also frustrated. The presentation from Public Works, according to me, it was too general, not responding to what we requested. When one looks at what they call intrinsic challenges, I immediately see a lack of planning there. Those challenges, if you read them thoroughly, they are just a result of lack of planning, which is a problem. But I immediately, Chair, want to support your view that you'll arrange a follow-up meeting, possibly on a Friday, so that we can take the matter further. And in that meeting, if Public Works was to take the presentation by SAPS and respond in details to their frustrations, so that by the time we come back, we have a way forward. I also want to support the suggestion by the Minister of Public Works that we allow her to go and do her homework, and within 4 to 6 weeks, she comes back to the committee with a way forward and proposals. Because if I were to follow up on what Honorable Shambeni said, Public Works seems to be not having a full report even of their project. There's a project in Bulubedi Police Station, which was started in 2018. It was supposed to be completed in 2020, but as I speak even today, it is not completed. And that is a huge project because it cost around 96 million. My two questions, Chair, is when the Public Works talks of disputes that delay completion of project, what kind of disputes are they? And my second question is it really necessary for Public Works to oversee the leases? Is it impossible to give the management of leases to the user department? In this case, is SAPS, so that we don't have these complaints of Public Works extending leases without the mandate of SAPS, Public Works not paying rentals. And in addition to that, when we lease, make sure that we lease with the responsibility of maintenance being with the user department, so that we don't get frustrations of the landlord not maintaining this and that. I think that will, as we negotiate the contract, we factor that in. But I want to support your view, Chair, of a follow-up meeting and the proposed way forward by the Minister of Public Works. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Whip. Honorable members, you would understand that these are public buildings. If schools are in dilapidated states or hospitals are in a dilapidated state, there's a huge outcry from the public. Police stations are the first line of defense that we all have as citizens and the public. How do we fight crime? How do you teach? If you want to teach learners, you need a school. So if you want to fight crime, you need a police station. And what we are hearing today is really the biggest disappointment we've ever heard of in this committee. Honorable Molekwa. Is Honorable Molekwa still on the platform? She is on the platform. Honorable Molekwa, are you still able to speak? Can we send Honorable Molekwa a message? Please, if she's back, I will give her another opportunity to speak, or an opportunity. Then could I allow the acting DG Public Works to respond? Most of the questions were to Public Works. Honorable DG, you could also ask your team to assist you and indicate who would then be responding to some of these questions. Acting DG?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thanks to my colleagues in the Department of Police, and also to the questions posed by honorable members. I think the question asked by Honorable Whitfield with regards to the creditors that the department have in respect of the police portfolio, or rather even in general, all other creditors and from all other line departments. For this, I think we would have to break it down in the format he has requested, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and provide. But just safe for now to immediately respond and indicate that due to the ministerial directive that we had to stop the month-to-month payments on the leases, which the Auditor General had deemed to be irregular and causing irregular expenditure on the books of Public Works, and that we should immediately communicate and work with all other landlords to work towards a solution of renewal of contracts and having long-term contracts in place. This resulted in a backlog, particularly with some of the big landlords that we had. The negotiations have been ongoing, and with the directive in place, we're not able to pay over for fear of causing irregular expenditure on our books. For that reason, yes, some landlords resorted to illegal action and self-help by locking up the buildings. We have to indicate that in that regard, the work around the issue of payment in as far as rates and taxes, that part, Honorable Member, we had been paying it with the permission of the Treasury to directly pay to municipalities. And it is for that reason that we have been able to circumvent some of the difficult challenges related thereto. As the Honorable Member may be aware, that the matter is now before the courts. We have narrowed down. In November last year, we had about 1,700 leases on month-to-month basis. We have since whittled down that number to about 340. We are still working on finalization, particularly with the two big landlords, with SKG being one of them. And once we are able to finalize long-term leases with this, we would significantly reduce the number of month-to-month leases, and therefore the creditors book would also reflect this reality in that regard. On the issues raised pertaining to the buildings that are actually invaded and that are being vandalized, and some of them that are run down by vagrants, this is a matter we had been seized with over the last 3 months with our profiling of our asset register. And I've also taken note of what Honorable Shambeni raises in this regard with our immovable asset register. Yes, we have finally completed our asset register, and we are now in the process, as I'm indicating, of profiling this register. Amongst this is to actually record all of the properties and their state, including the condition assessments on all of them. And this will indeed, in a way, affect also the total value of what we posit now in our immovable asset register and what we have put forward as part of our balance sheet. So work is being done in this regard. Our biggest priority now is to immediately be responsive in stopping further invasions into our buildings. And for those that have already been invaded, the law requires of us to follow specific steps which are legal in nature to be able to now evict those that are within these buildings. And I think that we have begun across all of our regions to commence with the eviction processes. And of the most troublesome buildings which we have been brought to our attention and for which we have put in within our radar, we have stopped further invasions on them, and we have, as I've indicated, commenced with the lengthy and painful processes of finding alternative accommodation for those who have indeed run into our buildings. On the issue raised around whether we have done condition assessments on all of the police stations, I think, yes, indeed, the work has been done. It is not complete, Honorable Terblanche, in as far as this is concerned, but we have done a significant number of assessments. There is a challenge with police stations, as you may have heard, even Major General Stolle acknowledges this point, that with the police stations that are still not on our vested in our asset register, but are those that because of the old transition and the arrangements, they remain police stations owned by basically municipalities, and where there has been reluctance on the part of these municipalities to hand this over. Legally speaking, we are not able to make investment into these police stations and to do work in that regard, let alone even having contractors to be able to do condition assessments on them. And this has posited a huge challenge. And for those who have begun mapping all of these police stations across the country, and work has begun with engagements with these municipalities afresh and de novo to try and have the police stations handed over and be vested with us in this regard. The observations of Honorable Groenewald are indeed spot on and correct. We are the first ones to acknowledge, and no wonder we put bare the issues of our challenges and what we call intrinsic challenges in this regard. We are the first to acknowledge that we have a huge challenge. There has been a failure of doing what is necessary to be done. And indeed, we have, that's why we now emphasize on consequence management. If a project manager does not do what they're expected to do, there has to be consequence management. In the private sector, a project manager that does not complete a project and that does not, or that causes us a lot of money in the process, cannot just but go scot-free, and the project is abandoned and the building site is abandoned and nothing gets to happen. And this far we have begun a painstaking job of identifying on all those failures that have been highlighted in our presentation and which have also been shown in the SAPS presentation, that we have begun the consequence management process, and we are doing the arduous task of laying the foundations for future management of projects that they are above board. Knowing that the pipeline is a bit longer, what Minister pointed out to is what and is now the premise from which we depart, and is that premise that says we will not accept more projects that we know we will not have capacity to be responsive to. Even in terms of the work we have done with SAPS this time around, when we finalized the allocations for projects for the 2022-23 financial year, this principle was at the foremost at the concern of what we are doing. And therefore, we are confident that with the new pathway and those projects that indeed we know will not be able to deal with, we have also agreed that some we will have and hand them over to implementing agencies. And those that we know we will not be able to do and the implementing agencies won't also do, that the departments, the client departments themselves should drive those specific projects. So accordingly, the challenges that were being asked that we should break them down in terms of what we are talking about when we speak about disputes and when we speak about business forums and all of that. I believe we would be able to provide additional information in this regard. They are quite varied and they vary project by project and as to what the challenges are. In this regard, what we have done is to paint a global picture of what the key challenges are. And of course, with the review of Honorable Noxiavi, who points out that we seem to be too generic in that regard and that we should rather spend more time being responsive to the individual frustrations and issues raised by SAPS. It's a matter that we are committing that we will repackage the information in the manner that Honorable Groenewald and CIB points that to us that we need to repackage it in that way. And therefore, if we take indulgence of the follow-up meeting that the chair says she would convene and that information would be repackaged as such. If we look at the issues raised pertaining to...
my apologies for the interruption, DG. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Minister De Lille. Welcome back, Minister De Lille. Your DG is responding to some of the questions and he'll also have an opportunity to allow some members of his team to respond. Welcome back, Honorable Minister. My apologies for interrupting, DG. You may continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I had now been looking at the issue of this total picture of the projects we have and the impression we have mistakenly created on the part of Honorable Siavi that we seem not to be having a full grasp of the total picture of our projects and the project pipeline. We believe we do. We have simply not managed to report on each and every single project that we have in the pipeline, but in the slide that we presented holistically that shows the number of projects in our pipeline and how we have delineated those projects. All our projects are accounted for there, which are the projects that we have here. However, the work in progress projects that may be with client departments and that have been devolved to those client departments will not be reflective of what is on our slide and in what we account for. We have at the beginning of the presentation made it clear that we are only accounting for what we are currently driving in the department and where we are with these programs. I need to assure Honorable Groenewald that the 60% of the police station projects that are behind schedule, that in the last 3 months we have spent significant time looking at interventions that are specific to each and every one of these projects that are behind schedule to map out what is the problem, where have we gone wrong, and to then say what is to be done about that to address this. You asked the question specifically to say, what are we doing to address the core and the root causes of these challenges? First and foremost is the renewal of our contract and contracting relationship and documents and instruments. And secondly is an acknowledgement that on some key matters, our capacity is insufficient to drive this, and therefore we need to in-source capacity as well as obtaining support in the form of the state agencies that have a similar capacity to act as our implementing agents and project managers for some of the key core projects that may be considered sizable and that are also considered significant, and therefore to reprioritize and resynchronize as well as re-energize our base from that point of view. So So that's the first intervention we are making. The second one, with consequence management and the right tone setting and effective management, this is the second intervention we are making in this regard to ensure that we avoid repeat findings and that it is known right across the system that there would be consequences. Thirdly, it is the issue of the ability of enforcement to honestly enforce what is the terms and conditions of contract, and to also ensure that we are able to set the tone correct at the top and to make sure that that permeates right across the regions and to all officials at the coalface of delivery at construction sites. Fourthly, we have also instituted, and the minister had requested, the extension of services and investigative capacity, both internally within our GRC branch. We have placed a number of these contracts under review and investigations, and a number of employees as we speak are going through disciplinary processes. And we have also enlisted the support of the SIU in ensuring that most of these contracts that we see that things don't seem to have gone well, particularly as it relates to the challenge we pointed out of where contractors are demanding more money and where they have not necessarily managed their cash flow properly, that the construction projects have come to a halt. And in that instance, we seek to do what is necessary, recover the money, but we are also doing interventions of getting new contractors to finish off projects and to take the projects to practical completion. I must indicate that with that, we have seen that even some of the police stations that for some time had come to a halt, that construction work has now recommenced, and that the police stations are now being taken forward towards completion. I need to address the issues raised by Honorable Boni Marekwa. Honorable Marekwa, I think of key import is that we are quite sensitive, and we have taken cue from what the minister has pointed out, that between many client departments and service delivery lies ourselves, and our inability to provide effective service and support to these client departments had a negative impact on service delivery. We have taken this message of our minister to heart, and we have rededicated ourselves to doing all what is possible to make sure that we limit that ourselves becoming a barrier to service delivery by these departments. And what measures have we done, or what are we putting in place in this regard to be at the forefront? Number one, as we have already indicated, we have increased the threshold of the allowed amount from 100,000 to 1 million, which will make it easier for many of the client departments, including police, to be able to do day-to-day maintenance on some of the key things that they require. And if you look at it, it will also allow for some of the key interventions that are necessary at this moment from a point of view of getting things functional and things repaired timeously. And in this regard, we have also begun, and we have revived, as SAPS has indicated, that the key account management has not been having formal engagements in as far as operational meetings are concerned. I think I also need to correct what was raised. Honorable Terblanche, I think the idea wasn't that we haven't met SAPS in the last 5 years. We have been having meetings, and I myself, in my substantive position as head of the PMTE, I had been engaging with SAPS, and I had met with them for a formal meeting to look at the key issues on the table. So we have been meeting, we had been engaging, we had been looking at issues of allocation of budgets, we had been looking at problem areas. At the last meeting, SAPS had indicated the issue of unfinished police stations, a matter that also Commissioner Masemula points out to. And it's a matter that, as I am indicating, we immediately began responding to it, and we immediately began attending to this. There were also issues of clarification around who owes who and how much monies do we have from SAPS and how much of that. All of those reconciliations have been done ever since we met, and there's been progress in this regard. So we are meeting, we are instituting the issue of the operational meetings from a client key account management point of view, and those are now taking place. We are taking this to heart, the issue of the service of members who work under trees and who are working at construction sites. And that's why we are putting interventions to make sure that we are responsive in this regard. I'm going to invite, Chair, with your indulgence, my colleague Nyeleti Makubele to give a bit of a response on the issue of the termination of the 15 leases and which police stations and offices are affected by that, and also which ones have expired leases and still operating in these buildings. She will respond to that and also to the issue of what is our posture and attitude around the management of leases, and where do we see client departments actually playing a role in this regard.
Thank you very much, DG. You can, the next. Minister, would you like to come in, or could I allow the next speaker from your department?
Yes, I would just like to make a few comments at this stage, Chairperson.
Please, Minister.
Thank you very much. Chairperson, I would like to be held accountable by the committee in terms of my oversight role, but for me to play my oversight role, I do need the necessary information. My observation of what has transpired this morning, and I agree with some of the honorable members, that the presentation of DPWI is very general. Secondly, the DPWI presentation is not responding to the specifics within the presentation of the South African Police Service. So there is a disconnect, and we need to work on changing that. What I, again, Chairperson, is that I will commit to meet with the Minister of Police and with Commissioner Masamula as soon as possible to look at the priority requirements of SAPS and what need to be done immediately. That we will also have to look at the 2006, the 2009 devolving of functions is not clear to me, including we need to interrogate what is the current service level agreement that was also signed way before the time of myself and the minister. And then that I will also, in terms of the independent investigation, an assessment that I would like to do, that in drafting the terms of reference for the independent outside service provider to do assessment of all of these things that we've listened to today, that I will invite the South African Police Services to make input in the terms of reference if there is anything that the portfolio committee would like to make input on the terms of reference, so that we really at a holistic approach get into a complete independent audit and assessment of what we are dealing with. But that does not mean, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that we need to wait for all of that. We have to, in the meantime, look at those projects where DPWI has failed the South African Police Services and work on a program that we can present to the committee as to what solutions that we can apply there. So yes, the response from the department can go ahead, but I really think that we need to do a deep dive into all of the critical issues raised by the members. I want to assure the members that while I've stepped out, my staff has written down all their concerns, and I will be attending to that. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable members, I'm going to allow the minister, first the deputy minister, no. First, Minister Dalal, your DG has responded, you have responded, and I would like to commend you for the commitment you have made to come back to the committee. We've requested that we do it on a Friday, where the two ministers would have more time. Allow me to give firstly, the National Commissioner an opportunity just to say a few words, the Deputy Minister, and then the Minister of Police, and then honorable members. I think we are not going to get the detailed answers and responses that we've requested today, but that it would be fair on our side to allow the minister and her team to go back to the drawing board and to then we'll come back to the committee. But the minister does respond to calls and messages, and I thank you for that, Minister. So you've allowed me to speak to you directly, and your office has responded accordingly. So allow me, Minister, could I allow the National Commissioner and the Deputy Minister to first speak before I allow our Minister from SAPS? Ministers, Police, would that be okay with you?
That's okay, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. National Commissioner, Deputy Minister, and then the Minister will have the final word. National Commissioner.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson and Ministers and DM and colleagues. There was a question, I think, by Honorable Shembeni on the average distance from community to police station. Our standard is minimum 4 kilometers to a maximum of 26. And in areas where we do not have access, where there is a need, we every year budget for a number of vehicles that we can afford within the budget, where we distribute mobile CSCs. It's quite limited, they take time to build, and yes, we do make them available in certain areas. As a last remark, Honorable Chairperson, yes, we have listened to presentations by both departments and also by my colleague from Public Works, and we will probably meet and take some of these matters forward. And indeed, we would like to emphasize that out there in the public, it is the face of SAPS that the public says we are sitting in broken buildings, or where we don't paint buildings, or where we do not repair buildings. So the face that is out there, it is us, and there is nowhere where Public Works comes in, and we take this hiding on a daily basis so that we cannot repair or renovate our buildings. I think I will leave it there, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, National Commissioner General Masambola. Deputy Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity you have given me to comment on this. Thanks, Minister. And yeah, I don't have much to say, Chair, but just to re-emphasize the point that the Minister made with regard to the experiences that we have had with regard to some of the facilities that we are supposed to use, and the time that it takes for the Department of Public Works to ensure that these facilities are made available. I take note, of course, of the response by the Minister of Public Works in terms of how she will want to handle the issues. And I think it's fair that we should agree to that approach. The experience we have had, without belaboring the point that the minister has raised, just with the Telkom Towers, it's a 24 floors building, and when there is no electricity, it's very difficult to reach the office, to go up those stairs and to get out, generally to be open, to be functional in that facility. So it's a facility that needs a serious backup in the form of generators. Everything must work there. If not, you will have difficulties. He did ask me a question yesterday, Minister, that when are we moving in? And I said to him, I know I'll come back to you. I'll have to establish the facts. From what we were given, the delay is, there's still going to be much delays, Minister, because there are other outstanding matters that have not been fixed. And because it's a complex, that entire complex need to be attended to at once, because the manner in which they are doing it, by the time they finish with the last block, they will have to come back to the block that they have passed. And this is creating a serious problem. And I think if it can be handled as an emergency, it will assist a great deal. Of course, I take note of the issues that they've raised in their presentation. I think it's slide 2 or 3, the one that talks to overview of challenges and operational challenges that they are confronted with, the issues of delays, the problems around disruptions. In the main, what causes communities and these Mandela groupings to emerge is because we are not following through in terms of the laws. There are laws that were passed 2000, for example, that regulates the professionals within the construction environment. That act explains what needs to be done, and the regulations that goes with it, that talks to what you need to do before you build a police station or any other building that you do in terms of community participation. The example the minister was giving about a PE police station where you have had disruptions because we brought everything from outside. These are precisely because of us not following legislation that we have stipulated. And this legislation talks to community participation, readying the community for whatever service is going to be provided to them. By the time you allocate a contractor to go and work in a particular community, the community is ready to provide certain services and how they must interact with the construction processes. But because we don't follow our own laws, we do shortcuts, and communities, because they know, we go to parliament, the president pronounced there must be, communities must benefit, we pass legislation, they know these things. And now when they don't participate, they don't see themselves benefiting, they then respond in a manner that sometimes we call it violent, and whatever way we label it, yet the problem is at. Like I said, I don't want to belabor the issues that the minister have raised. I'm happy that the Minister of Public Works and the team, they are here. And I don't doubt their willingness to interface with SAPS, because in our case, it's very frustrating, the things that we go through, and the working environment, including the sleeping environment of our police officers, is completely unacceptable, just because the service that is supposed to be rendered is not rendered. But thanks, Chair, for the opportunity for us to interact with them. And thanks, Minister, for allowing me to comment before you give your last comment on our behalf. Thanks.
Minister of Police, let me just get an indication if the Minister of Public Works would like to speak. I see her hand is up again. Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure.
Sorry, Chairperson, it's a legacy and I will remove it now. Thank you.
No problem. That leaves us with the Minister of Police.
Chairperson, thanks very much. I just hope that this meeting will take us forward. You spoke about Friday, Chairperson. We didn't tell which one. Surely it can't be the very coming one, but it can't be many more Fridays coming. Chairperson, we're in a burning situation. Now I'm beginning to be scared that it might happen that the term of this government might end without this ministry not having an office at all. Working around. Looks like we are not going to have the office. I listened to the August, September, July, 8 months. I said to myself, let's just accept it. We're not going to have the office at that level. So you can imagine what happens going down. That's one. But Chairperson, the minister is correct. We would love to see these papers, these MOUs, these service delivery and all that, and then we see how they help us. Vis-a-vis the question raised by Honorable Member Shembeni, of which we did raise at the beginning, the capacity of the in-house capacity of things that we can do. I've been in Nongoma police station, Chairperson. I think it's 2 years now. They're without water. That's a police station. When you go to the toilet, you carry your own jug of water. That you carry your own drinking water to wash hands and all those. And we expect those police members to do the job, Chairperson. I think it's Soshanguve, where there is no electricity at the police station. And the community, as they phone, they say at night, they just don't know what the police are doing themselves. They're scared to go there. And you just wonder what the police are doing when they go to the cells of prisoners. Where is their life? Where is their safety? And all those things. So these problems, they're immediate, Chairperson. As we try to tackle them, there's immediate. There should be no police station without electricity or backup or water, Chairperson. There are human beings there working. That's one. There will be those that are medium. Honorable raised the issue of the Rich Road. It's not only the Rich Road, the Durban Central building itself, which used to be one of the top accommodation in that area, they have been allowed to completely lapse and there is just no life. And that area has become the sore point at that Rich Road, which was one of the best ever accommodation of the police. It's not only in Durban, several. Those are immediate things that they need to be attended of maintenance, not just maintenance, but also improving the lives of the people that are supposed to be there. The long-term, Chairperson, police stations taking 10 years, taking 5 years, and all that. And as the commissioner is saying, it's us that go to these communities. It's us that are asked almost every week as we go to communities and all that. The Department of Public Works, they are very lucky because they're not there to answer these things which police are getting bashed on the laboratory matters and all that. Chairperson, can be helped that there is no building that is locked down, is shut down in the morning as we want to go and work there because the money that has been paid by the Department of Police is not paid to the landlord by the next. So I think as we meet, as we look at the papers, we'll have to categorize things that they need to be fixed yesterday, today, and tomorrow to allow work while I'll be tempted to look at this in-house capacity. But that's not our core job. Our core job is to do security of the community. Like saying that doctors and nurses must build hospitals, teachers and the HODs and students must build schools. So why would us Somebody must do the job and to allow us to do our core job. But if that is not happening, I think it's a risk we're prepared to take. It will be a hard way to take, but correct. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Minister, we will not have the meeting this coming Friday. I'll be engaging with your office and Minister DeLille's office. What we have heard today is more than unacceptable. Honorable members would agree with me that all our challenges will not be addressed if we don't get the matter of public works and SAPS sorted out. We can come here and complain about the forensic science laboratories, the Central Firearm Registry, crime fighting. We will not get anywhere if we do not sort out the work with public works and infrastructure. I'm going to end the meeting now, thanking the National Commissioner and his team, the Director General and his team. I'm not going to take further questions, Honorable Whitfield.
You can't end the meeting.
Or allow for further responses.
There's
We
still an
have-
agenda, Chair.
No, we still have the rest of our agenda. On this part of the meeting, I am going to allow the members, the Minister of Public Works, to leave. Sorry, I've stated it incorrectly. I will allow the Minister of Public Works and her team to leave, and then Minister and your team, you could leave. We are now going to deal with the minutes and the approval of the reports, and for that we do not need the ministers or the Deputy Minister or the National Commissioner or the DG. So on this part of the meeting, you may leave. On the rest of the meeting, members, honorable members, we need a quorum. So could you please stay on the platform so that we have a quorum?
Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable members, my apologies.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister
Thank you.
Dillon. This part of the meeting is over. We'll continue now with the business of the committee. The business of the committee would be firstly the minutes and then the report on the DNA bill for our approval. Could we have the minutes? Thank you very much. Honorable members, page 1 of the minutes, page 2, any corrections, additions? If we have any additions, honorable members, that you would like to make, corrections? I am now on the Deputy Minister's remarks. That is page 5. Page 6, the closing remarks by the chairperson. Do we have a proposal for adoption? Do we have a proposal for adoption?
I move, Chair.
Honorable Whip moves for adoption. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable. Is that Molekwa or Morekwa? Molekwa seconds. Thank you very much. Could we go to the report? The report of the Portfolio Committee on Police, on Public Participation, Criminal Law, Forensic Procedure. The report. Thank you. Objective and purpose of the amendment, the clauses of the amendment, the definition. We could go down, let me further. The removal of timelines, the proposed subsections. Next. Clause 2B, Section 7B, Section 7C, subsection 7D, public participation, adoption of the Criminal Law Forensic Procedures Amendment Bill. The Portfolio Committee on Police adopts the Criminal Law Forensic Procedures Amendment Bill without any amendments. I put the report to the House. Could I have a proposal for adoption?
Chairperson Honourable Whitfield proposes adoption.
Honourable Whitfield, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder?
Honourable Tablanche, Chairperson.
Honourable Tablanche, seconds. Do you reserve your rights, any members?
No, Chair.
None?
No, Chair.
Thank you very much. The report is thus adopted and has to be taken to the House. Congratulations, members. Thank you to the honourable members for participating. Thank you for the positive way in which we have united around getting this bill passed through. My apologies for where we had delays. I'm convinced that we have done everything according to book, and I would like to thank the members for their patience. I'd like to thank once more all the political parties for cooperating and really working with one voice. This is really remarkable, and as a committee, we can consider this to be one of our achievements and one of the highlights. Good luck to members. It will now be processed to the National Assembly. It will be processed to the NCOP, and we will ensure that we keep our eye on the ball and that we don't drop and let things slip through our fingers, and so that we do not allow it to take very long. Honorable members, as you had indicated in the last Portfolio Committee meeting, you have indicated and we're requesting that we postpone the Firearm Summit and that we give you another date for the Firearm Summit. We'll give you that date, and we'll also talk to you about the arrangements. The chairperson will also speak to you about the content. Nicolette, is there anything else that we have to raise in the committee?
Good morning, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. I think that covers the business of today, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Is there anything else you would like to raise before I close the meeting? Honourable members, you will make your statements in the National Assembly. I'm sure you'll do that effectively and appropriately. Thank you, honourable members. Thank you for your participation, and thank you for staying till the end and allowing us to have a quorum. Thank you, members. That brings us to the end of the business of today. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Bye.
Bye.
Record.